All right, guys. Thanks for hopping on. This section we're gonna talk about a specific lead type that Ben and his team are running, and he's working on generating. And we're also gonna go over just some telesales principles. Ben's been selling 2 years now, just about a little bit longer, maybe.
Almost three now, yeah, almost three.
Almost three. Yep. And they're selling, pretty much all final expense. Some term stuff, some IUL stuff, and it's all straight telesales, which is pretty cool. And you ran everything from like ILC leads to leads you guys are making now, and you sold a lot, and now you're building an agency and providing leads. So but Ben sells 50 grand a month on his own, team does a couple 100,000. And so I wanted you, if you can, kind of cover for agents that might be interested in working with leads you guys are doing, what you're producing, like what demographic you're targeting, what the leads are. And then we can kind of go into what systems you guys have set up, and some things you're doing that you think are helping agents A, close business, but B, also most importantly, keep business on the books, right? Because
Yeah,
selling is important, but it's about what you keep, right? So net income super important, and persistency super important. So yeah, dude, if you want to start with kind of the leads you guys are making, what you're targeting and what they are, then we can dive into kind of what the sales process for you and your guys looks like.
yeah. So I do have the first lead type we went for veterans, which I think is obviously a pretty specific group, but it's a good example of if you are going to make leads, if you are going to really go after anybody, kind of tailor it to whoever you're talking to, whether it's a homeowner or a nurse, it could be a veteran. But I would say that, and then really making sure, first of all, you know what you're doing and you provide an actual service and you're not just a price hunter, because that can get beat by somebody else even if it's not legitimate. That's how you can lose business. But if you spend your time making sure that person trusts you, like actual old-fashioned sales, and not just catering to what they're asking for, but really building the value like in what you're doing for them, you're not going to lose the sale even if you sell a higher priced monthly. Someone else can't come and take that client from you for $10 off a month. So that's what I would say. Those two things, build the value in yourself as an agent. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, you guys are doing veteran leads, but mortgage protection and final expense, like these are all just marketing terms, just ways for us to sell insurance, right? And
Correct.
ultimately everyone needs insurance, but sometimes you have to position it in a way where it's like, oh, this is for veterans, right? Like I would probably be more likely to click on an ad if it was like, hey, this is insurance for new dads. I'd be like, oh, what the heck's that? Like, let me click on that, right? Or like Ben would be like, I'm gonna click on this ad for people with really great mustaches or whatever.
All
I'm
right.
just kidding, but
People that bike every morning.
yeah, right. It's like, but so it's getting good at marketing and specifying to exactly what you're doing. So, but you guys have gotten really good at making super high quality leads agents are really happy with. What does the process look like? If we go in your leads in, like, how do you take it? And what's unique about what you're doing is you can actually train on how to sell it, right? Like you mentioned, a lot of lead vendors are just want to make as much profit as possible and don't care if the agents actually make money. Well, all of your agents use your leads, so you do care if the leads are good or not, right? So
Yeah.
take everyone through, and a lot of the things Ben will say are principles you could use for any lead type, but you get a lead in, take everyone from like how what the first initial phone call looks like, what you mentioned as far as veterans go, down to how you close them, and how that process all works together.
I mean, veteran or not, also just to keep it kind of broad. These days, if you're not using, especially with telesales, if you're not using technology, whether it's a CRM with SMS or old school, plenty of people are great with just shooting a text out. I mean, like take the time, let them know who you are that you're going to be calling. You'll set yourself apart for sure. And half the time with Verizon and AT&T, it'll show up with your name on it if you do that too. So I think everybody's looking. Most of the time it seems like, especially earlier on, where you can slip into looking for laydowns instead of really trying to spend time with each person. Um, so I think, again, regardless of the lead type, obviously there are ones out there where you got to call 100 people to get, in front of two or three. We've all been there. But regardless, when you get in front of that person, don't look for the laydown. Like look to build a small relationship, and whatever that last person, if there was one, did not do for them, and they're yours for life. Yeah.
For sure. So when you get a lead in, you get a veteran lead, someone fills it out. Like, what is, you call me, I'm one of the leads. What does your initial phone call look like? for a lead that is specifically, one of your guys' leads, one of the life jacket leads?
I just very much just have them recall. I was like, remember when you were looking at life insurance for veterans? Like that's it, nothing fancy. And when you're talking about a specific lead type that you're catering to, you can almost like you make them give you the info that you would usually have on the lead, right? Their branch type, when they left, almost like you have to ask those questions. And it could be the same for, truck drivers. I mean, if you're calling a certain group of people, like know about that group of people before you call them. So I think that's probably what you're actually asking. And sorry about that. But I definitely have learned a lot about, veterans and how to maximize every conversation that, I definitely lost at the beginning for not knowing when I first hopped on. So know who you're calling, single parents, not parents, homeowners, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, if you're running mortgage protection leads, or you're running IUL leads, or you're running anything like mortgage protection, you should know about interest rates and private mortgage insurance. If you're calling people that sell IUL, you should understand basics about what indexing means and all that sort of stuff, and why people might be looking for tax-free retirement, right? So once you get someone on the phone initially, what does that look like as far as like how do you run through the actual appointment, decide if you're gonna run through an appointment or just schedule a follow-up? And what do your numbers typically look like? Like you have X amount of phone calls that turn into presentations that turn into sales.
I should be a little more organized with tracking. But I think one great thing to be able to do on the phone, because to be honest, everybody feels like something else is more important and it can very easily say, let's talk later, call me back later. I'll say okay, but let me take 2 minutes to make sure I can actually help you. We have a lot of people to get to. And I'll literally still try to run the appointment. Just tell them it's 2 minutes and just keep that end in sight going. But gather all their information, make myself seem valuable as much as possible, be memorable. And then even if they do have to get off the phone, you definitely did better than, some other person that just tried to quickly call and close them. So if you cannot keep it going, but I would say you can really muscle people through with that, like what they call end in sight, just another like 2 minutes, we're almost done.
Yeah.
And also saying that the application is a part of the pre-appointment. You know what I mean? You get them approved right there. It's like, oh, we actually don't have to have that second appointment we talked about. We already got you approved. But regardless, you can sneak on an application in 3 or 4 minutes. But also making them kind of work for it. You don't want to make it seem like you're doing everything you can for them, which seems backwards. But if you're really good at what you do, then everybody's probably trying to work with you. So your time's valuable. And they'll be lucky, if they can get whatever product you're trying to get them, an IUL, right? These are very hard to get, very beneficial, no brainer if you can get approved for it. But we definitely have to see if you can get approved for it first. It takes like 3 minutes though.
What are the couple of questions you ask when you're talking to people to identify what their actual need is? And like identify which product, right? So like figuring out, debt, spouse, like what are a couple of the probing questions you ask?
I think I try to start with open-ended questions, just see if they start, open their mouth, start talking, and then just shut up and listen for the most part. But definitely just like, why'd you decide to look at this, like today? Is this the first time you've looked at it? So like basic info, and then obviously you always, I remember Easton talking about, you find out what seems important to them, and then you stay on that subject. You drive down that road for a little while, and figure out what's important to them. Forget everything that you just asked. But the other thing I noticed is people want the easy sale. It's easy to sell a huge term policy for a young person that's healthy, but somebody that comes on and says, I want 500,000 or I want 1 million, that has, previous cancer and they're like 60. A lot of people, the appointment's done in their head at that point. I really build the importance of like even basic, immediate, simplified issue, whole life cash value. Because even though it's not a lot, it's not nothing. And it's probably better than what a lot of the poorly budgeted people are going to do with their money. And you already got out of them like how important it is that they have the coverage.
Yeah.
So even having 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, I find I used to see, Jay Conan and Easton selling, four or five policy stacks to like a 60-year-old for over $10,000. And it's like they obviously made it that important to them, that they were willing to part with $1,000, and they weren't getting a different lead or anything like that. But they're some of the only people that actually sell those.
Yeah.
And when you build value in it like that, first of all, the money's quick, it's real, but they're pretty satisfied with like that layer of protection instead of just trying to walk out with the easy, like, oh, we can get you like 15,000 for $60, because that one's
Right.
going to get price hunted, but the other one you built a relationship with.
Yeah, you're right. The deeper that you go and the more you tie the death benefit to, this is to cover your burial, to pay for, 6 months of your mortgage, and to leave $10,000 for your grandkids each for school. Like if they
Yeah,
think about canceling that, it's tied to five different things, right? But if they think
exactly.
about, oh, I have a $15,000 life insurance policy, they're like, who cares? Not a big deal. So I appreciate it, dude. Hey, if people are interested in looking into leads you guys are generating and using, what's the best way? What's the website they can go to set up an order with you guys?
I'll make sure it's working right now. We do have multiple other lead sources that we're trying to iron out, but I believe we can get on the waiting list at lifejacketleads.com. We can post that probably.
Perfect.
And I'll tighten that up later.
Have Sammy post that right here. So awesome, dude.
Perfect.
Well, hey, I appreciate it. Guys, hope this is helpful, and I will see y'all in not next week, but we do every other week. So I'll see y'all in a couple weeks from now. Ben, thanks for jumping on with us, dude. I appreciate it.